Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So I'm doing this video because of what's going on in the Bahamas, and I'm going to refer back to a comment that I received a day or so ago on one of my older videos that depicts exactly why we should be prepping. Okay, and I'm not doing this video to say I told you so or anything like that. Absolutely not. What's happened in the Bahamas with Hurricane Dorian, I believe it is devastating, and I truly hope that, man, those people get the help that they need over there, because it's devastating. But I wanted to go ahead and read this article for you all. People are shooting each other for food and water. Bahamas Hurricane Dorian death toll will be staggering, with thousands still missing as bodies pile up and militias are formed to stop looting. Government has deployed extra security to the Bahamas northern islands amid reports of looting and violence. Corpses have piled up, and officials have ordered in hundreds of body bags and freezers to store the dead. Officials are now evacuating to Capital and Nassau, but efforts are hampered by flooded airports and runways. Up to 70,000 in need of life-saving assistance, while Health Minister has warned of staggering death toll. Dorian struck the Bahamas as a catastrophic Category 5 storm on Sunday, unleashing deadly 185-mile winds. And I heard somewhere or read somewhere that they had wind surges of up to 220 miles per hour, ladies and gentlemen. Half of Bahama homes are destroyed or severely damaged, with $7 billion in insured and uninsured property losses. Here it says graphic content, so warning. Reading on here, it says the death toll from devastating Hurricane Dorian will be staggering, with thousands still missing. Officials have warned amid reports of looters are trying to shoot people in the scramble for food and water. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have to be prepared. Not for the end of the world. Right, not for the apocalypse. You have to prepare accordingly to where you live and the situation that you may find yourself in. Do we have hurricanes here in Alaska? No, we don't. Or I've never really heard of one. So do I prepare for a hurricane? In a way I do, because I try to have the basic things that we need in order for us to be able to sustain ourselves for a period of time. Now, some people may say, well, what would have prepping done for these people in the Bahamas where everything was wiped out? Well, it depends on how you prep and what you prep for. For example, if you live in a hurricane-prone area and you know that something like that may happen, where homes can pretty much be eviscerated and cleaned off the map of the earth, I would probably consider having some preps buried. You know, having some water, some food, some self-defense. In case people do come around looting, you can at least stave them off, or at least try. You know, and you can at least have a fighting chance. I'm not saying that by getting self-defense that you're going to be able to win the war by yourself, or you and your local community. Who knows? There may be a gang of 1,000 people that overrun you, but at least you'll have a fighting chance. And that's what prepping is. It's giving yourself a chance to survive. It doesn't mean that you will 100% of the time, but it's giving yourself a chance. And I want to point you to this. Now, I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not calling anyone out, and that's why I'm blanking out the name and everything on this, because this person is not a troll. This person, I don't believe, left this comment as a way to troll or as a way to be rude or anything. It's just what he believes, right? And he made a comment here about a day ago or so in reference to one of my last pantry video, where I was telling people, you know, you should prep. This is how much I have, and this is why I prep, and all that stuff. And he says here, please post in 10 years, meaning please repost this video in 10 years or 5. We have been Chicken Little for over 60 years. And what I think he means by this is that we have been following the masses and that we've been falling for something for over 60 years, for something that makes no sense, for something that's never going to happen. And then it says, take the family on some cool trips, enjoy what we have now. Now, I agree. Enjoy what we have now. Take the family on some cool trips. Or in other words, do the things that make you happy and that make life worth living now, instead of concentrating on nothing but prepping. That is very good advice. But here where he says post in 10 years or 5, look at this. I'm only posting one day later because, yes, this did not happen here in the United States, but it happened somewhere. And who is to say that it cannot happen here? Who is to say that it cannot happen where you live? Anything can happen at any time. That is why we should be prepared. And now, when this person saw this video, maybe he thought that my life is prepping, and it's not. All right? So maybe that's where he was coming from. But we just need to be prepared, because this can happen to you. This can happen anywhere. And not just a hurricane, but some kind of a natural event or man-made event, which produces the effects that will keep you from being able to attain those life-saving things that you need to live. Food, water, medicine. Right? Let's go ahead and read on. Up to 70,000 are in need of life-saving assistance, while Great Abaco is said to be virtually uninhabitable, with bodies piled up, and witnesses say there is a smell of death with corpses floating in the water. While the official death toll stands at 30, that number is expected to rise today, and hundreds of body bags have been ordered along with extra freezers. A massive international relief effort was ramped up today as survivors revealed horrifying details of the apocalyptic aftermath of the 185-mile-per-hour Category 5 storm. One of them, Alicia Cook, broke down in tears as she revealed, everything is gone. People are starting to panic, pillaging, looting, trying to shoot people for water and food. It's just no way everyone's going to get out. No homes, no banks, no gas stations, no hardware stores. Everything is gone, she added. As others said, they feared the spread of disease. Hundreds have gathered hoping to be evacuated today, but efforts have been complicated by flooding runways at Grand Bahama International Airport. The British government has pledged $1.5 million to help deliver aid, saying it is estimated that several hundred British nationals live in the worst affected areas of the Bahamas. The Foreign Office said it is working to establish how badly they have been affected and deploying staff and members of the British Red Cross for emotional and practical support. The Royal Navy helicopter rescued 3 children and a British person who was trapped beneath rubble for several days after the hurricane. Just look at this. I mean, this is horrifying. Can you just picture something like this happening where you live? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should be prepared. I mean, a lot of these homes are destroyed, but I can still see infrastructure there, meaning that if they had preps, that if they had some water stored, beneath their homes, if they had some food stored, if they had some supplies stored, medical supplies, that they would still at least be able to survive until they got the help that they really needed in order to start over again. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's what prepping is for. Prepping is so that you can get through a time where you cannot attain the goods and services that you normally attain on a regular basis, when those goods and services are unattainable. And right now, for these people, they can't get any clean water to drink. They can't get food. they can't get medical attention. Even with other countries trying to go in there and help, it's not very easy for them because the airports are flooded, the runways are flooded, and they can't get to them. Now, who's to say that in 2 weeks, there will probably be an opportunity for people to come in and help them? And look at that. If some of these people would have been prepped for at least a 2-week time frame and had a store of goods that they can get into in an emergency like this, I'm not saying that they would be great, but they would be able to stay alive. And imagine if everyone had done this. Imagine if everyone on this island, and I'm not being critical, all right? I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not being critical, but I am definitely using this opportunity as a teaching opportunity, because it is important that we learn from things that happen to other people and in other parts of the world, so that we can use their experience and that we can benefit from them as far as learning what we can and should not do. All right? So I'm not trying to demean anyone in any way by saying if everyone here, or at least half the population, had a 2-week supply of food, water, even self-defense, medicines, that they would be able to survive the week or two that they need to before real serious help can get to them and help them. It says here, the image above shows the devastation left after the storm passed Abaco Island yesterday. The death toll from devastating Hurricane Dorian will be staggering, with thousands still missing. Officials have warned amid reports of looters trying to shoot people in the scramble for food and water. And ladies and gentlemen, when you're desperate for food and water, a lot of you will say that I would never do this or I would never do that. Just fill in the blanks. I would never do this and I would never do that. But you have to remember that we are animals. And there is something deep inside of our psyche that says that we will do anything that we need to do to survive. And unless you're put in that position, you will never know whether you will do it or not. So why put yourself in that position? I'm not telling you to prep like I prep. I'm not telling you to prep like anyone else that you know preps, if you know anyone that preps. What I'm saying is that, isn't it smart to have put away some sustenance, some medical needs that you may have, some hygiene items, some water filters would be awesome, some fuel. I mean, I see water everywhere in this picture. There's a whole bunch of water, but it's salinated. And I mean, obviously they have fuel all over the place because they have wood everywhere. So they can actually distill that water and drink water. But do they have a way of starting fire? Putting some of those things away and knowing how to use those things would really help a lot in a situation like this. And look at this. This is terrible. I mean, I see this and, just put yourself in that place right there and imagine how terrible it would be. It says here, the Wildcat helicopter operating from Royal Fleet Auxiliary Ship Mounts Bay, which has been stationed in the Caribbean since June in readiness for hurricane season, was flying over Great Abaco Island to assess the damage when its crew were called to rescue a casualty from Elbow Cay. The crew pulled the person from the rubble and took them back to Mounts Bay to be given emergency medication before being airlifted to the capital, Nassau. The Royal Navy said that the Wildcat also rescued a woman, her 2 children, and a baby, and took them to Nassau. Addressing fears of the death toll from the disaster will climb, Health Minister Dwayne Sands warned, "Let me say that I believe the number will be staggering." Some locals call the government's initial official death toll a tragic underestimate. And it says here, you smell the decomposing bodies as you walk through Marsh Harbor, said Sandra Sweeting, 37, in an interview amid the wreckage of Great Abaco. It's everywhere. There's a lot of people who aren't going to make it off this island. I work part-time in a funeral home. I know what death smells like, said Anthony Thompson, 27. There must be hundreds. Extra security has been deployed, with witnesses seeing residents breaking into liquor stores and supermarkets, carrying off goods in bags or filling their vehicles. Local militias have been formed to clamp down on the widespread looting. The Minister of National Security has deployed to Abaco yesterday to establish order amid reports of looting. The island has been rendered uninhabitable by the storm. The storm struck the island chain as a Category 5 hurricane on Sunday and stalled over Abaco and Grand Bahama for the following 2 days amid 185-mile-per-hour winds and torrential rains ravaged countless communities. And, I'm not going to continue, ladies and gentlemen. I'll leave the link to this article, so if you guys want to take a look at it. But I just wanted to, show you guys that this can happen anywhere. It's just not in these small little islands, and it's just not a hurricane. It can be anything. So if any of you are listening to this video and this is the first time that you've come across this channel and you're not a prepper or you're not prepared, I'm not going to say a prepper, okay? I use the word prepper because that's the mainstream word for it. But I will say, if you're not prepared for a week or two of not being able to get the things that you need in order to sustain your life and your family's life, you may want to consider looking into, getting some sustenance, getting some things that that you need in order to survive for a period of time that you decide. Or you may decide that a week's worth of preps is enough for you and your family. You may decide that it's 2 weeks or a month. It's up to you to decide how much you need to prep. But at least have something that you can fall back on in case something happens that is out of your control. Because this is a terrible story, and I wish nothing but the best for these poor people. Unfortunately, they're going to have a really rough go at it for the next couple of weeks. All right. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much for joining in. I wish this was a better video. And for any of you that think that I'm trying to fear porn, I really am not. All right. But this is the reason why we prep. We don't prep for the end of the world. All right. We prep so that we can be able to take care of our families and take care of ourselves for a period of time in which we don't have any control of where we get those vital things that we need to sustain life. Having said that, thank you very much for joining in. I truly do appreciate you guys joining in today. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.